I wanted to make a little longer video today. I have my ruck on, and since it's raining outside, I'm gonna just get on the elliptical and do a little bit here. But I wanted to do a little longer video because I was thinking about what the challenge I just did with this same ruck, how I wanted to bring awareness to veteran suicide. Now, there's more than 22 that kill themselves a day. Apparently, it's up in the 40s. Like 40-something veterans a day kill themselves, which was brought to my attention recently when I met with the CEO of an organization online. We did a call so I can learn about them, and they asked if I was willing to help. And that statistic is just, oh God, it's so insane, but honestly, it's not surprising to me. I really can't explain it enough to somebody who isn't in the military how difficult it is to get out, especially if you spent at least a couple years in. You are indoctrinated. Most people are, not everyone, but most people are indoctrinated. We are so used to a different way of living, a different way of life. It's so hard to explain. You don't feel like you fit in with society anymore. And then if you couple that with any kind of trauma, and trauma can be, usually for women, they say it's sexual assault, but that is not true. It's not always sexual assault. And that can happen for men as well. It can be trauma of getting passed over, getting screwed over, so many interpersonal work issues that can eat away at you. It's such a rigid, hard environment to be in, depending on what branch you're in. And then you can also add in deployment stuff. I don't know if this is making anybody sick to watch this video. It might be, so let me just stop for a second. Deployment stuff and any kind of trauma from that, from war, is going to greatly screw your mind up. Like, so bad, I can't even describe that. So, and then what happens when we try to reach out to other veterans and they're not sympathetic to us? They don't want to hear it. That happens a lot. We need to do better as veterans with how we talk to each other and how we treat each other seriously. Like, there's some that will gatekeep combat trauma, let's say, for instance. And I've experienced this probably the most out of anything else. I was in the Army for 8 years. I was a chaplain assistant, which on the surface looks really like, oh, you don't really do much, right? You just sit there in the chapel and deal with the chaplain and services. People don't really know what that MOS entails, especially if you get attached to a almost all male combat unit and your chaplain decides to have you go out with the combat unit on missions. We did about 4 to 5 even a week, where we were riding along with combat engineers going 5 miles an hour in Iraq. This is like 18 years ago, so just for reference, it was in 06 to 08, so it was a long time ago. But what I experienced, I saw more combat than most men I know, and I'm not proud of that. I'm not bragging about it, not at all, because that wasn't my job, but that's what ended up happening. I fired my weapon a few times at actual terrorist insurgents, and I was in 2 direct blasts right underneath my window where I was knocked completely out, and I was in dozens of other blasts that were on the vehicle, but just not right under my window. And other types of detonations were fired at, and helicopters, legitimately. And it's just like unbelievable how my deployment was. And then what happened to me afterwards in dealing with the trauma, I couldn't relate to anybody. And the males, either didn't want to believe me or they just downplayed it, you know, like, you're a girl, like, how could you possibly have seen that? And ask what my job is and how could you possibly have been through that? But it did happen to me. So veterans can be the worst to each other. And that's really something that we need to fix, right? Like, shoot, if somebody saw a mortar hit a fob and they got PTSD from it, I'm not going to diminish their experience because I had seen hundreds of things more or experienced hundreds of things more. And I don't think all veterans like look at it like that. And then there's the divide between those who deployed and those who didn't deploy. And that is such a huge barrier for us being kind to each other and caring about each other. I don't care if you deployed or you didn't deploy. I spent the whole majority of my career not deployed and dealing with like interpersonal things and work things and suicidal soldiers and visiting sick soldiers and all kinds of other situations that you can imagine. That's what we dealt with. And then I had soldiers when I became a higher ranking NCO, and then I dealt with their issues, and I was managing chaplains and getting into that whole other realm. So there's just like a whole lot that goes into being a veteran. And if we cannot empathize with each other, our community is going to continue to see more suicides. Like, it is. I think that civilians can do what they can do for us, but we really have to be there for each other. And if we're not able to step outside of our own experience and say, shit, that's really hard for you, and I'm going to be here for you. And let's talk about it, you know? Let's talk about how are you getting along day to day? Because that's really what it is finding something to get us through day to day. I am here in my garage pretty much 5 or 6 days a week so that I can work out and get my mind right, because I have a myriad of issues that I deal with, not just headaches, and I can't remember shit, and I can't sleep very well, and I have anxiety, and I'm not around people very often because it's hard for me to handle that. The way that I cope with it is through exercise and writing. But some veterans don't have anything that they're coping with besides like alcohol or a whole bunch of other terrible things that are vices. So we really need to like be there for each other. I don't know, I was just thinking about this, that we have to be more accountable with ourselves and how we're treating each other. And we cannot treat each other like shit just because our experiences are different. So yeah, that's what I was thinking about today. And I don't really know like how to get the word out more to other veterans, except for if I see some being dicks, like I say something to them. So I don't know, we need to like police each other better. But if you're a veteran and you're watching this and you need someone to talk to, please reach out to other people, and don't stop looking for that thing that's going to help you get through the day, even if it's like really small. Whatever it is that gives you a little bit of joy, you have to focus on that, because we have to stop these suicides.